My name is Jennifer Holmes, and I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for coming today to what Pam wanted to be called her going away party. I've known Pam, I was trying to figure it out today, I think it's about 27 years. I was on the board of the Canadian Mental Health Association with Pam, and we have traveled to British Columbia, Prince Edward Island, Timmins, in the middle. She has been my friend, my buddy, and my healer. She always had a way of knowing when something was wrong with you and calling you out on it in the best way possible. She was just a lovely person, and I will miss her so very much. On September the 4th, I got a work email. The one day I didn't check my work email in a timely fashion from Jan Grabio. I called Jan and left a message. I was out doing errands. It was a Sunday, and Jan called me back. I was on the EC Road traveling from LaSalle to Riverside, and she told me Pam was in hospital and wanted to see me. So I immediately did a U-turn and went back and marched right into Met Hospital. On the way out, I saw a big sign on Pam's floor saying, "Please check in at the desk. We have a COVID outbreak." But I was on a mission to see Pam. And Pam always gave lessons to all of us. I'm sure you all have lessons that Pam gave to you. That lesson for me, and I encourage you all to remember it, is take the opportunity. It was the last time I saw Pam, and I am forever grateful that on that day, I turned around and marched into that hospital to see her. We sat together for quite a while reminiscing, and on that day, she told me she was dying, and she asked me to be the master of ceremonies at her going away party. So here I am. We're going to give her the musical going away party she wanted. The playlist that you've been hearing and that you'll continue to hear after the speeches are Pam's eclectic playlist. Jason thought some of the songs were too racy, and we said, just leave it. That was Pam. We will have a few speakers, some stories, and then open the floor if there's anyone who wants to share a story about Pam. So on the day that I sat with Pam at the hospital, she gave me instructions, many instructions, as to exactly how she wanted today to unfold. She wanted me to share with you a few things about her time in the hospital, and as we know, she fought her whole life for the healthcare system in our community, which is indeed a better place because of her. She wanted me to particularly thank Dr. Bonnie Lee, who she said was so kind and compassionate to her. Dr. Lee was the person who delivered to Pam the news that she had cancer and had not long to live, and was not, in fact, I didn't really understand it, but I wasn't going to interrupt her and ask questions, was not, in fact, her oncologist, but that person hadn't told her, and Dr. Bonnie Lee delivered the news to Pam in a way that touched her deeply, and she wanted me to honor her today. She also wanted me to tell you a story. So I'm sitting there with Pam, and you could just picture her saying this. She's like, "Do you know they have co-ed rooms in the hospital now?" I was like, "No." She said, "My first roommate was David." I'm like, "Come on." And she said, "Yeah, he wasn't very friendly. We just sort of ignored each other. And then one night, neither of us could sleep. And we talked and talked and talked and bonded. They talked into the wee hours of the night about all kinds of things." She wanted me to share that story with you. So the first people who are going to speak to you today are Pam's dear husband, Frank, her daughter, Tammy, and son, Jason, if they could come forward. I just want to tell you three, before you speak, that day that I was in the hospital with Pam, she couldn't talk to me enough about how much she loved you. You were coming up that night. I think, Tammy, you were just traveling in that day from Ottawa. And she was so excited to see you all. She just loved you so much. She couldn't go on about how supportive and loving a family she had. I'm sure you already know that, but if you don't, she wanted me to remind you at this party.
So on behalf of my dad, my sister Tammy and myself, I'd like to start off by welcoming everybody and thanking Jennifer, Jan, and Auntie Sue for helping us put today's event on. We wouldn't have been able to do it without you. When I think of my mother, there are a few principles that always come to mind and exemplify who she really was. Integrity, ethics, equality, advocacy, empathy, respect, and forgiveness. Those principles guided her life and her work, and she did her best to instill them in all of us as well. She worked tirelessly in the service of other people in need her entire life. Not for money, power, or recognition, but just simply to try and make the world a better place. Mom loved people, and she collected friends like Pokemon. She managed to befriend people from all walks of life everywhere she went. And once you were her friend, she was your friend for life. I'm still not quite sure how she kept track of everybody. But it has been an absolute honor sharing her love with all of you. The fact that she was able to make every one of us feel as special and loved as she did is a true testament to how big her heart really was. She was an amazing woman who unquestionably gave much more to this world than she ever took from it. Thank you for all coming today, and also to the many others that wanted to be here but couldn't, and who've reached out to us. It's incredibly heartwarming to really get a sense of how many lives she managed to touch. I know if there was anything that Mom would ask of everyone in this room to do to honor her memory and legacy, that would be to always be kind to each other and love one another. Thank you.
Jason couldn't thank himself or Tammy, so I'm going to do that for him. They did a wonderful job in giving us this presentation today, so thank you very much for that. And I'll be coming back to the mic a little later on to tell you about one of Pam's fantasies.
As I said, Pam couldn't speak enough about her love for her family, not just that day, but always. And I witnessed it several times. Frank often prepared meals for Pam and Jan and I. We took turns, the three of us, the mental health girls, as we called ourselves, going to each other's house. But it was always the best at Pam's because Frank would cook and wait on us. And I got there one night. It was winter, I recall. And Pam and Jan were already, I was running late, as usual, and Pam and Jan were already seated. When I walked in, they were like, do you smell something? Pam wanted me to tell this story. She's like, do you smell something? What does that smell? And there was Bronwyn, and I'm like, you guys, she's been sprayed by a skunk. You can't, and like, we thought we smelled something. The poor dog was reeking of skunk, but no, they didn't smell it at all. The next person who will speak is Jan Graviel. Most of you probably know Jan. She has been a loyal donor, generous and loyal donor to the Canadian Mental Health Association in our community for years and years, tirelessly volunteering not only with that organization but with many, and giving back to our community always. She was a dear and loyal lifelong friend of Pam. And Jan's going to speak to you about Pam's time at the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Well, not lifelong friend, but I first met Pam. Can you hear me? I first met Pam when she was the new ED for the Canadian Mental Health in Windsor. I was the new treasurer, and we worked well together. And she quickly became a dear friend and mentor. She was passionate about mental health, and I soon came to share her passion. Pam put her heart and soul into her work, and CMHA Windsor Essex soon became a leader in the community mental health care field. She was a strong advocate for community-based services. She not only started new programs, but convinced the Ministry of Health that it was more financially prudent to buy the building on Windsor Avenue rather than to continue with renting buildings. She initiated the bereavement program and a full medical clinic. Far too many of her clients had difficulty finding a primary care doctor. She established group homes, which provided safe accommodation. She also recognized the importance of a strong relationship with law enforcement. Pam served on many provincial health committees and presented at international conferences. I was speaking recently with a close friend of Pam's, Judy Shanks from CMHA Timmins. I asked Judy if she would please send me some of the memories and some of the things Pam did for mental health. Well, I came about a half hour before I was leaving, and the list is endless. As she mentioned, Pam was served with the committees for psychiatric hospital divestments for the Ministry of Health. She served on the Ministry of Health Mental Health Policy Committee and the CMHA Mental Health Policy Committee. She was the chair of the CMHA Executive Directors Network and the CMHA Supportive Housing Committee. And there were many, many more, which Pam's contribution to and the establishment of services and programs for one of our most vulnerable populations cannot be overstated. She will be missed, and those with any form of mental illness have lost a very powerful advocate. She was an amazing woman, and hers was a life well spent. Thank you.
When Pam was in hospital, she told me a story about a nurse, and we tried hard to find the nurse actually, but it was difficult to do so and we were unsuccessful. Tammy tried relentlessly to find her. There was a nurse in hospital when Pam was there who befriended Pam, pardon me, and came to her one day and sang a song to her that she wanted played at her going away party. The song is so fitting, and we're going to play it for you now. It's called Good Job by Alicia Keys, and it's fitting for Pam's work with mental health. Excuse me, I should have pointed out that the nurse to whom I referred earlier knew Pam. She recognized her from her involvement in the community before she sang her that song. Next we have the pool aerobics girls. Pam prided herself on her pool aerobics. Many dropped by, but in the core group was Jan, Marianne, Barb, and Lillian, who could not be here today. So Jan, Marianne, and Barb.
I'm back. This group was just instrumental in all of us getting through the COVID years with our sanity. More than 11 years ago, Pam invited a group of us to her pool Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings during the summer months to do aquatics. Our core group, as has been mentioned, Pam, Lillian, Marianne, Barb, and I have stayed with the program and loved every moment. Others came and went. We even had instructors, one of whom, I don't see the other one, but maybe Bronwyn's here. Madeline is here, and Madeline, would you come up and just say a few words?
I'm just behind you.
Oh. All right.
I haven't really prepared anything. I met Pam, I was actually working at the CMHA as an administrative assistant, and I was approached by her admin assistant who had asked me to possibly meet with Pam and help her with maybe some personal training, because I have a background in there, and just kind of keep it low key. I met her at her home, and we started talking, and it was, you know, you can imagine a young woman going into her ED's home and getting to know her, but she was just so inviting and just Pam and down to earth and funny and just making jokes and telling me what she wanted. And you also know Pam as maybe somebody who's a little headstrong, so I had some challenges with her. Had some challenges motivating her. We worked on smoking cessation as well, which was huge, and she's just a powerful woman. She became my mentor through all of this. Pam was just someone who, she just invited you and you were just part of her family. I got to meet her children, and she's just encouraging and loving, and just a big hug. Pam's just a big hug to me, you know? So next thing I knew, she's introducing me to these other absolutely incredible women and just opening up my my world enjoying Pam being able to tell the temperature by her guns. She prided herself in that. If you've been to her phone, you would know that. And if you didn't know her that way, well, there it is. We had many laughs where I was hitting people in the heads with like pool noodles, which she absolutely loved when I did that to Lillian. She knew me through my pregnancy. She was there at my wedding. She's just this amazing friend, confidant, like I said, mentor. I was privileged enough, I know Lena said this, but I was privileged enough that Pam and I, we kept in contact through text, but she understood the challenges that we had, and she saw my little girls, grow up a little bit, and I got to spend some one-on-one time with her and Frank before she passed, and she got to play with my kids, and they get to know her, and they'll have a memory of her. We have pictures now, which means the world to me. And then she invited me to come back and secretly see the girls one last time, or hopefully not the last time, but turned out. And I got to do another class with them, and that was amazing as well, and got to reminisce and get to know, and it was a blessing. It was a true blessing, and she's a blessing in my life, and will have forever changed it, and has inspired me to do better and more and keep going. And the Great Job song, I mean, she would have been there doing that. She would have been there, be the first cheerleader for all of us, and she did do that. So I'm sorry my speech was kind of off the cuff, but I gotta tell you that she will be missed. Thank you.
Yeah, 3 days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, rain or shine, sometimes wearing our house coats and tower caps for fun. We met 9 o'clock for water aerobics, gossip, neighborhood updates, and political discussions, as you can imagine, and always a good laugh. Even managed to get a little exercise in when we went there. These pool days became a lifeline during the pandemic. We shared so much, the happy, the sad, and Pam's last few months as her health deteriorated. Pam said we were great support for her, but she was our motivation and support as well. She will be missed. Lillian couldn't be here today, but passed on this message. Pam opened her heart and pulled us even through the pandemic. And she writes, "I'll be there for you when the rain starts to pour. I'll be there for you where I've never been before. I'll be there for you because you're here for me too." Pam was a neighbor, a friend, an inspiration to all of us. You made a big splash in our lives, and for that we will thank you.
And we must thank Frank, who was up early every morning to make sure that the pool was up to Pam's required 90 degrees and always had a coffee on the go for us. Pam, you're a true friend and an inspiration to all of us. You made a big splash in our lives, and you will never be forgotten, and we will miss you very much. Thank you.
Next, we have for you a video presentation of Pam's godson, Andrew Harris, who's right here in the beige jacket waving. Andrew is, as I said, Pam's godson, and the son of a dear friend of Pam, Sarah Wiseman, who I know will miss Pam very much. Pam spoke of you on that last day in the hospital, both of you, and wanted me to let everyone know how very special you were in her lives. Andrew, she was so proud of you, so proud of you. So we have for you a video of Andrew playing one of Pam's favorite songs, Music Box Dancer. talented beyond words. That was beautiful. And she was so proud of you. We next have Brad and Nettie Watson, who were friends and next door neighbors of Pam's.
I was really, really grateful, Nettie and I, to be able to speak on behalf of our amazing neighborhood, amazing neighbors that Pam and Frank and Tammy and Jay have always been a part of. I remember the day that Pam came into our neighborhood. I think she became all of a sudden religious.
Brad?
Because she found out that I was a pastor. And all of a sudden, I think she started to pray more. And God would help her, especially with my wife. One of our favorite stories, one of my favorite stories of Pam was a Christmas Eve story. And I have been able to just love how Pam and Frank mostly decorate to the hill. Their house was always the place to be in the neighborhood for the party. And I remember Pam was so excited about her Christmas decorations that year because she'd gotten 2 deer that lit up. And it was an amazing presentation that Frank had put together. And I remember asking Pam, listen, I have a number of services over at the church that I would love for you and Frank to come to. And she said, I can't this year. I can't. Because we're expecting family Christmas at our place, and it has to be ready, and I don't have time to go to a Christmas Eve service. I said, Pam, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, we'll pray for you, okay? Because we love Pam. She was easy to love. And I remember coming home after doing the late service, and these 2 deer in the front lawn were lit up. And I got a bad idea. Yeah, I was a bad pastor. I decided I was going to sneakily, in front of the house, take the one deer and mount it on the other one. And when I did, the one on the bottom stayed lit, but the one that was being rutted, which is the right word, mounted, it went out. And I still remember, I went to bed not knowing what I did, and I woke up to a phone call from my neighbor Pam, who obviously had heard from the neighbors who had come in because they were so excited about the Christmas decorations on their front lawn that year. And I absolutely loved it. I think she called this pastor a bugger. Tammy, I think it was something else, but I will leave that to the secrecy of your family.
That's between you and I. We are secret.
I really tried to get Donald Trump here today. I was above my pay grade. And obviously I didn't have the pull. Should have prayed more, I guess. One of our fondest memories was again seeing Pam, her sense of justice and rightness for our world. Man, she was fired up, wasn't she? And you guys had those discussions in the pool, Jan, and we could hear them all over the neighborhood. And when she launched her book, I got another bad idea. I said, Frank, I need your permission first. Because if I get in trouble, I need somebody to go back to and blame. And so I dressed up like Donald Trump. Make America great again. And you know what I loved about Pam is she welcomed us. She was so good at forgiving this guy. And I loved her for it. Nettie and I come home, and we still can't believe she's gone. We miss her. Don't we miss her? Don't you miss her laugh? Oh, I still ache for it. And I'm just reminded, honey, do you want to say anything? Come on. Yeah.
She always loves stories at Brad's expense. So Brad was studying in Montreal at McGill at seminary, and he wrote one paper about worship. And she loved the phrase that gave the professor he kind of circled it 3 times in this essay, and it was about cubic worship, not public worship. So you know, spelling mistake. She just loved that.
Forgotten about that. Oh my God. She forgave me for that. There's a verse in the Bible, if I can, where it says Jesus stands at the door of people's hearts and he knocks. And he says that if anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I'll come in and we'll do life together. We'll be friends. And I just think of Pam with that verse because, she didn't knock at our door. We knocked at hers. Open that door and let us all come in. And I'm so grateful for the friend and the neighbor that she is and was, and again, the tribute that we are able to give her today. So thanks for the chance to be able to share. Thanks, Frank, Tammy, and Jay. Love you guys.
Well, Brad, I don't care what Pam says, that was beautiful. We now welcome anyone who wants to say anything to come up and share a little story of Pam, if you'd like to. Come on up.
What I'm always gonna remember about Pam is how she was a great listener, and our conversations together were so meaningful. Probably about as meaningful as the conversations I've had with my kids throughout the years. And on one specific day, me, Pam, and Grandpa were at Jason and Sherry's house. I was in the hot tub. I didn't even know how long I've been sitting in there for. I lost track of time. And we began talking about my mental illnesses, about how long I can sit in there for. Well, here I was assuming I could sit in Jason's hot tub for as long as I can. As soon as it was said, bam, had a seizure. Next thing I know, a couple minutes later, I'm regaining consciousness and I'm flat on Jason's deck. He held me up and walked me over to the table. And me and Pam both agreed from then on, I would only sit in the hot tub for a specific determined period of time.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Michael.
Michael.
Pam was about as overprotective of me as my brother and my cats have always been throughout the years. Now, for all people that want to say that cats don't have feelings like we do, yes, they are. My cats have always been overprotective.
Thank you, Michael. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Hi, I'm Jamie, lifelong friend of Jason and Tammy, and met Pam and Frank and the family when I was about 13 years old, so about 35 years ago or so. So when I'm about 16, I go over to visit Jason. I knock on the door, he opens the door, and at the time the bathroom was right there by the back door, side door. And he was changing a toilet seat. And it was one of those new ones that kind of close automatically, so the boys don't leave it up all the time. And then he calls his mom over, Pam, and hey Mom, see the toilet seat? She's like, yeah, good job. Hey, and I'm gonna paraphrase because it was a long time ago. She wanted to know an interesting thing about toilet seats. You can't get one pregnant. So that's Pam's humor for you. Thank you.
Thank you, and I can hear Pam laughing about that. Along with missing the laugh, won't you miss the hugs? Like the best hugs in the world. It was like, I feel awkward. Are you gonna let go of me?
I'm Dustin Clark. I'm a nephew. and I'd like to share a few memories from a perspective of our niece or nephew. Many of them unfortunately aren't here today. So Aunt Pam had these teeth that kind of jetted out in a certain angle, and when you were young, it was customary that she would gnaw on the palm of your hand. And as much as it was torture while it was happening, you always wanted more afterwards. And a little older, in came the tricks and magic tricks and pranks that she introduced to the nephews and nieces. So whoopee cushions, fake dog poop, and snappers. I remember one time we put the snappers on the toilet seat and we accidentally got our grandma. Got in a lot of trouble for that one, much to the dismay of all the parents. And then when she moved from the Forest Glade area to the Beach Grove area, I became a little older, and I clearly remember that's where the parties happened. When she turned her home into the casa type of deal, and I would every now and then stop by with a friend or two and pop in for a beer. I'll share a few stories with her. Thanks.
Hi, I've known Pam since I was about 5. We grew up on Glidden Avenue. We were known as the Glidden Gang. And we had a lot of laughs and we had a lot of fights too. And one of the neighbors' whole backyard was an ice rink. He did it every year for us. So this one year we decided we were going to play Crack the Whip. Bad idea, on ice. I was the end and Pam was holding on my hand. So as we went around the circle, Pam let go of my hand. And I went flying over a chain link fence and face planted right in the dirt. And Pam laughed so hard she peed her pants. I was so mad at her and she could not stop laughing. And I'm like, yep, that's Pam's sense of humor. And we used to have some real fights and little girls hair pull sometimes. And I can remember one time I had a whole fistful of her hair. And I'm sure she had some of mine too. But kind of lost track over the years, you know, jobs and families and all that stuff. But we connected not too long ago. And we talked a lot on the phone. Frank can tell you that. He'd say, dinner's ready, and we'd still be talking on the phone. And we talk about politics and just everything. And you'd say something, and Pam would go silent for a minute, and I would be, what? She's like, you are so much like me, it kind of freaks me out. And we really were kind of attuned in a lot of ways that way. So I will miss our talks for sure, and I will miss Pam a lot too. She was a crazy good friend.
All right, Frank, I think it's time for us to hear about that fantasy.
All right. Who wouldn't want to hear about a good fantasy? Anyway, it was the winter time, and I had the pleasure of visiting with my brother and his wife Pierrette. And one of the places that we went to was Padre Island, which is a big sandbar, the southeast portion of Texas and the Gulf of Mexico. Pam happened to notice there's a riding ranch there. So she confided in me, the fantasy of hers was to go horseback riding on the beach. And I thought, well, okay, we'll give it a shot. Next morning we get up, we had arrangements. We get to the ranch, and the instructor provides us with 2 horses. We mount our respective horses, and I didn't quite know how to kick this fantasy off in an interesting fashion, but the horses knew exactly what to do. My horse reached over and bit her horse in the ass. Her horse, the head went down, the rear hoofs up, kicking in a frenzy at the head of my horse. I thought, man, this is some kind of fantasy. Anyway, the leader of the pack turns around and says, oh, by the way, you two, those 2 horses don't like one another. Thanks a lot. So anyway, we start our trek, and Pam decides, in order to avoid any accidental incidents, she would just linger back. So she's walking along, her and her horse are riding along the shoreline, and the only problem was there was shoreline fishermen there. So she kind of had to weave in and out of the shoreline fishermen. So she fell a little bit behind the group, and a pretty thick fog had settled in at that point, so we couldn't even see her anymore. So our guide decides after about 20 minutes, better go back and see how Pam's doing. So he goes back and he checks with her and she says, yeah, I'm doing all right. I'll be with you guys in a few minutes. So she's pretty casual on the horse, barely got the reins in her hands. And the leader takes off at a full gallop, and her horse sees that and proceeds to do the same thing. Ripped the reins right out of Pam's hand, and the horse is going lickety-split, and Pam says, geez, I wish I wore my cross by heart bra, I just slapped myself silly. So anyway, we're into the sand dune area now, and we're going up and down the sand dunes, and we're finally in earshot of one another. She looks at me, she says, why the dour look, what's wrong? I lost my friggin' glasses. Anyway, so about 10 more minutes, we make a U-turn, we're heading back toward the corral. And horses don't hesitate to get back to the corral. We're all going 90 miles an hour at this point. And on the entry to the corral, there's 2 posts, just wide enough for the horse, not so much for your legs. So we go through this and it's whoop, whoop, each leg hits. Anyway, we slither off the horses and head for home. The next morning, it was time to leave. We're slinking through the airport in great pain. The horse riding muscles hadn't been used in 30 years. They were revolting full time. Anyway, the next day at home, we had the good fortune to see Billy Crystal in Blazing Saddles. So with side-splitting laughter, it kind of went along well with the muscle cramps and that. So it took us about a week to recover. Anyway, that's Pam's status.
My name is Dennis Carson. I'm a friend of Frank and Pam's. I met Frank at Johnny Shots. We had a beer yesterday with Jason. I wondered how long I'd known Frank, and I couldn't figure it out. It's been over 15 years, Frank. One day he comes in and he says, I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm packing, going to Mexico. I said, well, I go to Mexico. Where do you go? Puerto Vallarta. I said, Dad and I have been going to Puerto Vallarta forever. So we exchanged numbers and emails, and we get down there. Over the years, we went out to dinners. Frank and I do the Super Bowl, NASCAR, and all that kind of stuff. One day he phones me 1 year we're down there. Says, Pam's in the hospital. She's in a coma. So I know where the hospital was, not far from the Sheraton where Frank is. We go down to the hospital just to be with him, and where Pam's in a coma. How long was that, Frank? How many days?
Probably a half dozen days.
Yeah, it was like forever. And one day we're in the lobby, and the doctor comes up and says, you know, she's out. She's come out of the coma. So Frank goes right in, sees her. Half an hour later, he goes out. She says, she wants to see you, Daddy. So I go in, and she's not doing too good. You know, she just been out for 5, 6 days. And she says, you're the cop, right? I said, yeah, I'm retired. She said, you're a detective, right? Yeah, I'm retired. You got a badge? And I wonder where she's going with this. You know, I said, she got a badge? I said, yeah, I got a retirement badge. Where are you going with this, Pam? She says, okay, she reaches up and grabs me, pulls me down. And she said, here's the plan. You're gonna get my scooter, you're gonna bring it into the room, you're gonna help me get on it, and you're gonna walk in front of me with your badge and get me the hell out of here. So, unfortunately for Pam, it took her a while to rehab. So, in fact, she left the hospital, and the rehab came to the Sheraton, which was nice. Pam got to know all these people, and the years later, when she came back, she would take them all out to dinner. So as it turned out, we were heading home early that year, and she was rehabbed enough that Frank got her on the same plane as us. And I always sort of like Lucille Ball. This is what I always thought she was like, always scheming and planning and joking and doing things. So she's on the plane. She's actually one row behind us. She's got a set of 3 seats all to herself, and we're one seat up on the other side. So she slept for most of the way. So they're bringing food by, and they go by us, and Ann says, I'm going to go back and sit with Pam. So we're on an international flight, 3,000 feet in the air. My girl Ann, I call her Ethel, went to sit with Lucy. Now what could happen there, right? 3,000 feet in the air. So I'm sitting there, and I hear a big laugh, and that made me feel good. There's Pam laughing out loud. A minute or so goes by. Another big yell and a laugh, and I'm thinking, oh wow, this is good. I'm really happy. And then another minute goes by, and they're just roaring. I go, what the hell is going on? I turn around and look, they're having a food fight. And in all fairness, Pam, the medication Pam was on, when she would take a piece of food, she'd get it up her mouth, and she'd throw it at Ann, it would hit her. She'd try another one, and just the reaction, the reflex, the motor skills were gone. She'd hit Ann with it. Finally, Ann says, "Wait a minute," starts firing it back at her. Anyway, that was my story about Pam.
We want to thank the Windsor Yacht Club for allowing us to join here today. It's a beautiful setting. Purple was Pam's favorite color. I see so many faces that she spoke of so often, and she was so blessed to have so many friends in her life as we were blessed to have her. I'd like to thank Frank, Tammy, Jason, Jan, and Pam's sister Sue for putting this together in accordance with my marching orders from Pam. Before the last order of business, I would like to propose a toast to Pam. A mother, a wife, a pioneer in her field, and a friend to so many. You will be so sorely missed, Pam, but we know you will continue to guide us from your new forever as you guided us every day that we had you here. To Pam.
Pam.
Yep, she wanted dancing. So we're gonna dance to one song. Please join me in dancing to the song that best describes Pam to me. She was truly unstoppable right to the very end.